So my guest today is someone that I've got an incredible amount of respect for. We first met a couple of years ago, and actually the first sort of 10 or 15 minutes of our conversation genuinely had a really big impact on me and the way I think about business and working with others and that kind of thing. Throughout his career, he's worked for some of the most admired companies in the world, including Tesla Motors back in the day, as well as Easee, one of Europe's largest EV charging manufacturers. He also co-founded an electric moped company a couple of years ago, which is pretty cool. I see him as a personal friend and a colleague, also sort of on the mission of electrifying transport. And I really look forward to our conversations when we chat. So let's kick this one off. Welcome to Charging Sessions, Alan O'Donnell. Good day, Alan. How you doing?
Good day, Johan. That was quite an introduction.
Yeah,
I don't know how I'm going to live up to that billing. So.
I'm sure you'll do just fine. It's good to see you as always. It's, as I said, I always look forward to catching up with you, and nice to be able to record it as well and maybe share some of your personality and knowledge with others.
Yeah, and thanks for doing the recording at a more suitable time for me as well, I should say, Johan, where I have a little bit more energy, because some of our calls over the years have been at some of the most crazy o'clock times I've ever had business meetings at. So I'm pleased that we adjusted the times to make sure I had all the energy in the tank today. So
that's
thanks.
right. And we've had one of those super hot days in Melbourne today, close to 40 degrees Celsius, and it's quite nice. Now it's a bit after 9 p.m. and it's nice and cool, so it works really well for me too.
Good.
Let me dig into your brand a little bit of it and see where maybe it all started, because you always struck me as someone that's very sort of curious about life, and I'm sure that's really served you well, growing up and sort of getting you to the point where you are today. But as a kid, can you remember what you wanted to be when you grew up?
Yeah, as a very young kid, I grew up in the city of Glasgow in Scotland, and Glasgow is a football crazy city. So every single young kid wants to be a footballer. So there is find me a kid that doesn't want to be a footballer. So that was definitely the dream. I did play for Celtic youth until about the age of 14, but then I discovered I wasn't good enough. Like you quickly realise when people are just progressing quicker than you at that age. Then it was genuinely, I wanted to get out and work, and I wanted to earn money. Like I wanted to go out and do things. And at age 14, I started discos, proper discos.
Wow.
So I was making tickets at home, and I was going around the schools after waiting outside school gates, like of rival schools as well, to sell tickets for the discos that I was running, and making all the money from the sweets and the juice and the crisps to do it that way.
Okay.
So, yeah. And then
so you like arrange for like renting a facility through to like ticketing people and then selling them as they're in there too.
It was a church hall. It was my mum's church hall, so my mum was very heavily involved in the church. Yeah, I rented the church hall. And so we were running them, and that was a little bit of character building as well, because you could imagine when you invite lots of different schools in the one environment, what might happen at those environments. So so discovered policing at that point as well.
That's right.
So and then in the summer I was running local shops, so we'd run a local shop for people to go and bring food and stuff to people's houses. And I always had a paper round, a newspaper round, back in the day when newspapers were so popular. And that was a brilliant grounding for a young child, because you had to get up early, be at a certain place to get the newspapers, get them all delivered, and then get back to get ready for school. If I think about like my young kids just now, they can't even get themselves ready, and I was out doing a paper run before actually anyone else. And then after school, you'd have the evening run as well when they were really popular newspapers. So after school, you'd go and do an evening run. And looking back, at the time, you thought it was like hard work and you weren't getting paid a lot. But looking back, that was a real grounding for everything else that you got in your career, that you were working at such a young age.
Yeah. And what do you think kind of gave you that drive and, I guess, early day entrepreneurialism?
I was bored at school.
Yeah.
I was really bored. So I left with really good grades, but as a 16-year-old, so I never went on to progress to the higher level education. I was just really bored looking back at school. And this is what was giving me the excitement and the fulfillment, not the school and the learning. So probably that.
And then you went on to become an electrician. a practicing electrician. You started your own business and you ran that for a period of time, and then you ended up getting a job with Tesla as they kind of made their way into Europe. Can you tell us a bit about what that journey was like?
Yeah, sure. Tesla was really my first proper job, to be honest, after years of being an electrician. So it's just quite, it seems like worlds apart, but let me try and capture some way that these two fit together. So I started as an electrician. I qualified at the age of like 19, and then I started my own business at 21, being an electrician. And then for the next 8, 9 years, I've been running my own electrical business. So to do that, you have to work every hour because at night time you're quoting your paperwork, you're working during the day. So you're working every hour there is. You're always chasing money. You don't have any money in the bank. You can't pay your bills. You can't pay your staff. It's absolute chaos at all times.
Yeah.
And then when I started at Tesla, it was Tesla back in the day. They had no money. They couldn't pay the bills. They couldn't pay the staff. Right? They were always like working, like it's true. Everything you read about Tesla back in the day and the hours that everyone worked to do it, you know. So I think in some way it prepared me for Tesla life because it was so chaotic and you had to work so hard, but you really believed in what you were doing. I think in another way, I always tried to work on new technologies.
Yeah.
And looking back at me and my electrical contracting business, if only I just stuck to the old things, the traditional things, I would probably have made a lot of money and things would have been a lot easier.
Yeah.
But because I was installing solar panels 20 years ago, things were breaking, things were not working, and I was losing money as a result of trying to choose innovative things.
Yeah. Very interesting.
Yeah.
How did that whole thing come about? Like, how do you go from running your own, electrician business through to them being kind of like one of the first few people in Europe working for Tesla? That doesn't happen by itself, does it?
It doesn't happen by itself. I need to credit my girlfriend at the time, now my wife, for giving me the encouragement and bravery to go for it, I suppose. So there's a big kudos to say that there. And I'm going to really show my age here by saying it was a letter. So it wasn't a letter to dear Elon. I'm sure I had found a contact somewhere, but it was a letter and just declaring what I've been working on. I've been trying new technologies and I heard about this guy, Elon Musk, and it was more about him than it was Tesla at the time. It was about this mythical figure at this point and what he was doing. And so I sent it thinking I wouldn't hear anything of it. And then about a year later, someone called me out the blue to say, we're coming to Europe and we're looking to hire in Europe. And there's going to be roles coming up. Would you be interested? I said yes. Then about another 6 months later, never heard anything. And they came back again and said, okay, there's a role. And the role was to do the charging infrastructure for UK and Ireland at that point. But then when you start, you have to do a million and one jobs at Tesla. And I ended up working in Scandinavia as well, which is how my career sort of progressed to Scandinavia, as no doubt we're going to mention throughout the rest of this chat today. So
yeah. I mean,
so
that sounds like a particularly interesting and like no doubt super hard challenge to kind of build a supercharger network in a new part of the world, in a new market where it hasn't been done before, and then kind of, I guess, discovering all those different processes and hurdles of getting that work done, because it's not easy, right?
Yeah, no, definitely not. So we worked on a charging team, and there was people specifically in the teams get out deploying the superchargers. I was also looking at how consumers were using their vehicles and how they were charging and where we'd need to place the boxes and what power rating to place the boxes. But also we had to educate people. People had never plugged the car in before. So we had to come up with like novel ways of relating it to everyday items to train the Tesla salespeople to then train the people that were coming in the doors as to what this was and how we do it. So there was a lot of training elements around it, and then development to try and make the products, specifically the AT products, to make them more product suitable for the EU market rather than the US market. So there's a lot of adaptations there. Maybe I'll say like, here's one of the biggest differences. Maybe I know you asked me what it was like. I'll tell you one of the biggest differences, and it was definitely the people, like the speed of thought, the intelligence, the sharpness. I would enter if I got involved in an engineering meeting, for example, in the early days, it would pass me by. It was like they were talking a different language, and the speed that they were talking at, you just know you're the dumbest person in the room, And I think in the beginning, and that was probably the biggest change, the type of people you're working with, not
Mm.
the, I can work
Yeah,
hard, I can have the ethics, I can do all these things, I can build relationships, but that really took me by surprise, and you
mm.
really realize I need to work on this. You know, if I'm
Yeah,
going to be successful here, I really need to work on this. So
and I would imagine too that, you know, for you now and for a lot of people that have gone through the Tesla journey, it must be a real, you know, it really is that kind of stamp of approval. This is not just an ordinary person. This is a person that's able to kind of deliver at a very high level together with other people at Tesla, right?
yeah, no, some of the people you work with, you know, was
Mm.
incredible. And even your younger people that would come in as an intern,
Mm.
and they would come in as an intern, and within 6 months they were running past you.
Yeah.
Literally, they came in jogging,
Mm.
and then within 6 months they were running,
Yeah.
and they ended up in California within 12 months. You know, and it was
Yeah.
seeing people having that speed of growth in their careers, just really smart people coming along. A
Mm.
top tip I've learned, and I've tried to pass this on to anyone that would listen, is don't interrupt the meeting flow when smart people are talking.
Mm. Yeah.
Have your moments, take your notes, write their names, because in Tesla, straight after that meeting, if you say to someone, "I don't understand, can you explain it?" Never once did anyone say no.
Mm.
They'll take the time, and people will explain it to you. So just
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
don't ask the questions in the meeting and disrupt the flow, but really get the time with these people one on one afterwards to say,
Mm.
"Listen, I don't know what you were talking about. Can you explain
Yeah.
it to me?" And that's
Yeah.
how
Yeah.
I
That's good.
developed, and that's how I learned. So
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, that's a fantastic way of learning, and I think that takes a different type of skill and courage too, to actually be able to ask the silly questions, because I think asking silly questions, as you might think they are, is a great way of learning stuff. I'm the same. I sometimes feel not as smart as people in certain settings, but it's, you know, it's about then learning and asking to get to that same level.
yeah, no, without a doubt, without a doubt.
Mm. Now, the very first time we met, you presented, I remember clearly, you presented kind of like the Easee culture and way of working. And I was, you know, more or less just floored by it. It really kind of, you know, I remember preparing for that meeting and having, you know, done a bunch of research about Easee beforehand, loving the product, loving the technology, and having just been really impressed by what this piece of kit could do. So you know, I thought it was going to be learning more about the product, maybe more about the company and organization and strategy and plan. But I was instead met by this completely different way of working and looking at people. And I remember you talking about love in those first 10 minutes, and it was really mind-boggling. And as I said, it really kind of touched me and had an impact. What do you think it is about that Easee culture and the way that Easee's been built up? What do you think makes it
Yeah, yeah.
special?
I'm going to answer that.
Mm.
I maybe answer it on the people part, and then I'll
Mm.
answer it on the technology part. You know, a chance to say why, because
Yeah,
there's
yeah,
two
yeah,
reasons.
cool.
There's two reasons for success: the business and the technology. So I'll talk about it from my sense, what I thought was successful, because this is like you and I chatting today. So the people behind the business that started the business, three founders, they taught me about love and emotion and openness in the workplace. That was new. That was new to me. And again, back to my roots, I've been brought up in Glasgow. I was brought up to show that don't show emotions because that's a weakness. Don't be open, you know, that's a weakness. Apparently, being strong was not telling anyone how you were feeling. You know, and that's the way I was brought up to be, to have this image of strength, you know, not
Mm.
weakness. So to learn that in a workplace was just completely alien to me. So the way I describe it is, I think I've become a better person for working at Easee. I genuinely do say that to people, and I genuinely believe it, of an understanding and of people in the
Mm.
workplace and how that can relate to life. And I know some of my colleagues at Easee better than I know some friends as well, because you spend so much time together, and you are
Yeah.
so open with each other. So
Mm.
that was a real difference for me. That was something I really had to learn, and something I have learned from working at Easee.
Mm.
Yeah, and
And I,
it's not. Yeah,
and
please.
I think just to add to that too, I think you not only learned it, but I think it's something that you clearly also, it's very able to demonstrate to others outside as well, which I think is, you know, you haven't just learned it and adopted it, but also kind of sharing that way of being, which I think is a very, very strong quality to have.
I hope so. I hope I've managed to transfer that to do it. I hope I have. I hope so.
Totally.
But it's
Um,
and it's
on the
yeah.
product side, it would be super interesting to hear for others too, maybe to hear a little bit about how the product's different and how that, you know, sets you guys apart from the market.
Yeah, so on the technology, maybe something I'd like to capture on the people story. We'll go back to that.
Sure.
I'll have a think about it and I'll come back to it to capture on it. On the technology, so it was 3 engineers. There was actually 4 engineers. We say there's 3 founders, but there was a 4th engineer, Ola, who's still with us very much today. I was speaking to him yesterday.
Mm.
There's 4 engineers behind the business. Now, yes, they're smart engineers. However, they were in the operating, building EV charging products in the only market in the world to adopt electric vehicles.
Mm.
So they could see the problems before everyone else. And if you're a smart engineer and you get to see the problems before everyone else, that's an opportunity to find the solutions. And that's what these 4 guys done.
Mm.
They knew they could see what was breaking. They could see was not scalable. They could see the pain points.
Yeah.
So when Easee first landed, it was like it was from another planet. It was way ahead of what anyone else was thinking about.
Mm.
It's because they had those industry learnings. They had the breaking points. They had the failure points.
Yeah.
And I'm going to give an example here, like maybe for any engineers that really want to get their teeth into it. So we talk about harness wiring in engineering, and in Tesla, we talked about harness wiring in the early days, and we were having issues with harness wiring. So the obvious solution is to buy a better quality harness wire or a better quality cable or improve the connection terminals. Or how do you improve on it? Easy looked at the EV charging industry and all the most common points of failure and thought, we're going to design them out, not improve on them. So in terms of harness wirings, they removed them all and threw them all away. They started again and connected everything through electronics and buzz bars, then tested it, then sealed it so it could never break. And that was like, for me, these guys are designing out problems, not trying to make problems better. And that really attracted me to them. And it made me take the leap from, at this point, a really secure job at Tesla. They were secure and it was exciting. And I was at Tesla Energy at this point, which was the battery part of Tesla and the storage part of Tesla. A secure job, a great job working with 12 engineers. But it was these 4 engineers that were thinking so far ahead that made me leave a stable job to then join the chaos again of a startup.
And so you were one of the very first hires outside of that kind of founding engineering team.
Yeah. So there was the first. I'm saying 4 with Ola in it, the 4 of them, and then it was maybe 2 or 3 employee, 2 or 3 Torstein, the supply chain we got in place, and myself because of my relationship with the guys over the years before to do it. I actually met the CEO Jonas, the original CEO and founder Jonas. I met him in a bar in London in 2016. Would you believe? So there you go. I don't know if that says more about me than it does anything else, but there you go.
Or about you both. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome. No, it's a fascinating journey being on with both with Tesla and Easee, and it's pretty impressive. Then a few years ago, you then decided to co-found and start a mobility company. So, which, correct me if I'm wrong, was kind of focused on building a sustainable electric moped. And over time, the idea is to kind of source components from as close to your assembly as
On
possible.
point.
Yeah.
Yep. On point to where the sale would be. Yeah. Assemble where the sale is. Yep.
Yeah. Fantastic. Can you tell us a bit about how it started? What are you trying to achieve? What's the goal?
Yeah, well, all my life's involved electricity. I call myself electrical. As you've heard before, it's always been electricity. So I owned an e-bike already. I was inspired by Gogoro from Taiwan, electric mopeds with the removable batteries.
Love them.
And I just thought, I'm going to get one of these just for fun. So I couldn't get a Gogoro, unfortunately. So I bought one from China with a removable battery, 2020, just for fun. It arrives at my house. It was a dream to ride. It was great value, and it was really easy to charge where you remove the battery and charge it in the house. However, when it arrived, I had to build it myself. Like, it came in pieces. I had to put it together, which obviously I enjoyed, but I put it together. Then I couldn't get insurance. No one would service it. No one would change a wheel. I couldn't get parts. And a fun story was when I went to change the SIM card to make it a UK SIM card so I could connect with my mobile.
Oh, okay.
And the mileage clock went back to 0 when I changed the SIM card.
Okay.
So like,
it's good to know.
as much as I was loving it, I saw all these problems around it, and I thought, aha, again, if you've got problems and you see it first, then maybe there's a solution here. Maybe there's something to go on. But at that point, Easee was in extreme growth. I didn't have any time. So there's a smart guy that I know and I've met through the years, is Paul Rafferty, and he was being paid by the government under the COVID lockdown subsidiary scheme not to work. And he's not the guy that likes, he's not the type of guy who likes to sit in his house. So I thought, aha. So I put some money in, a huge amount of money for me, but a tiny amount of money in the world of investments, but a huge amount for me. And I asked Paul, do you want to run with this? So Paul spent the next 6 months looking for the business case and looking for a business. And that's how it started. And Paul's been running the business for the past 4 years. I've been trying to help him as much as I can over the last 4 years. And whenever I can contribute, I will. We built a really strong board of the company, which is unheard of for like a really scrappy startup. So I always say we've got the board of a SME, but we've got the bank balance of a startup to do it. And just really learned the two-wheeled industry. And then we just last year built a three-wheeled vehicle with a box in the front, all using automotive parts from the mopeds. And we've designed a four-wheeler for light goods vehicles now, so light electric goods vehicles. So a really dinky, small four-wheeler, but crucially all with removable, swappable batteries, so back to depot batteries to swap. So now on the investment hunt for that, and Easee have been fantastic with me in the past 3 months, to be honest. So they've allowed me time to just go away and run these investment runs and go and do the pitches and get the no's and get the doors closed in my face. And that's been real. That's
been a humbling experience to go through the VC corridors.
Yeah, I was a little nervous coming onto this today, but I was really nervous doing these investor pitches. Like this is a new world to me. And the questions they asked. I'll give you one example. We went to London, and it was a Meet the Funder event. It was called in London. There must have been 50 to 100 private equity firms and VC firms in the room. But we're told there was going to be 10. We turned up, and Paul had told me, Alan, you do the pitch. It's only 2 minutes. You can do 2 minutes. I said, no problem. I'll do 2 minutes. So I got up there, used to doing presentations, and I think I'd done okay with the 2-minute pitch and got it done. Yes, breathe. And said, now it's around the questioning. And I looked at Paul. I thought, he never told me anything about questioning. So then I was getting quick fire questions from top people at the top of their game, and I really stumbled and fell, and it didn't go well. The question didn't go well, just unexpected, unprepared. But you live and you learn. So
it's interesting that kind of speaking to those VC people will help one or two companies that are kind of like super small and perhaps are looking for investment, and kind of try to help them on that journey. Maybe sort of like a 1 or 2 man band kind of thing. And I remember the first 1 or 2 of those type of conversations with the VC. They ask, I think, after you've been through it a few times, it seems like they're very similar questions, and probably half a dozen of them you can compare to. That always comes up. What's your moat? What's your addressable market? Some of those things, but it's those first conversations are pretty tough, and I would imagine too now in a very tough environment for getting investments with interest rates the way they are in I guess all over the world, right?
Yeah, it couldn't be a tougher climate, to be honest. And people seeing the business as a hardware business, even though the business is actually around the battery swaps and the recurring revenues and the software connectivity and the telematics involved in the vehicle. That's really where the business is, in the recurring revenue model. On paper, it looks like a hardware business. And hardware business and e-mobility are having a really tough time of it. Some really big names are struggling along the way. So that combined with the climate, with the actual climate for investment, it is really tough. We have met some great people though. There's some great people who have given us no's, but then want to offer you coaching and mentorship and help and introductions afterwards. Especially in London, it really blew me away with some of the kindness of some of the investors in the bar after the event. There'd be drinks to come up to you and say, "Here's my number. I'm never going to invest in you. However, if you need help, if you need introductions, I'd like to help you." And that's really reassuring. And that happened. It happens time and time again. So.
And I guess
prefer the ones giving me a check, obviously, but the fact they're giving me the card and offering that, opening up to us is good.
They're probably seeing that you're the type of person that can very much succeed, and it's about introducing you to the right people that might be more interested and inclined to invest in this type of business. And a couple of things. One, can you tell us the name of the business again, the electric moped business?
It's Bilis, spelled Bilis. So it
Brilliant.
started as two-wheeled electric mopeds for commuters.
Yep.
So we manufactured them in China. We chose our parts, put them all together, got them over to the UK, and we sold, I forget, 44 on the road of these on the road. And it was just to learn the industry, to get out there and learn the industry. And an interesting story for you there, Johan. You'll like this one. With Paul and I, how do we learn why people are buying e-bike, why they're buying bicycles, why they're buying mopeds, why they're buying motorbikes? How do we know what last mile delivery are doing? And at this point, the business was thinking about last mile delivery food riders at this point, because we had a two-wheeled vehicle for the box in the back. So what did we do? We actually went to London for a weekend, Saturday, Sunday, and we posed as pizza delivery boys for a whole weekend. And the two of us went round and we spoke to, I say 800. I don't know how many people we spoke to. We hung outside the chicken shops, the pizza shops. We spoke to our peers and we swapped bikes. We gave them shots of ours. We took shots of theirs. And that weekend was just, it made it all sink in as to where our customer target will be. It's not actually the last mile delivery riders. It's the company that provide the vehicles for the last mile delivery riders, not the individuals. So we're really focused on the logistics companies now within London to start, central London to start. So.
Yeah, fantastic. And you're also interested in perhaps also the commercial space and some of the logistics, the postal services with some of your 3 and 4.
Yeah, it's got to be that. So that's the end customer to do it. So and we want to start. The first investment decks look like the traditional hockey stick curve of all startups.
Nice.
After taking the advice and taking the learnings and going around to speak to people and understanding the climate, what we're trying to do now is bring a good product to market, not a great product, a good product to market in a really small scale, 10 a month. So we've agreed contract manufacturing in the UK. So just to start, 10 a month, which would show a company can bring a product to market and stop losing money. That would break even. So actually our investment deck is very unusual. It looks like a Z that goes up and then it sort of goes straight as soon as we get to zero. And it's not showing that hockey stick. It's showing that in order to get the hockey stick, something major has to happen. But just now the investment is to get onto that flat line to then look for a big investment. So that's kind of where we're at just now.
Yeah, cool. Well, all the best with that. It's, I just like you, I've been a big fan of Gogoro and that type of swappable technology in that moped and scooter space. It makes so much sense.
That makes so much sense.
Yeah, and I think to really have a close supply chain, I love that part of the mission too. It's awesome. A couple of questions to finish off with. Really keen to hear both. What do you see as the biggest challenges and opportunities more broadly in sort of around the energy transition and say e-mobility transition? What excites you the most in that space?
Excites first, or what do you want to lead with here? The challenges or the excitement?
Keen to hear about both actually. Maybe let's start with some of the hurdles. What's some of the headaches going on in Europe? What are some of the real opportunities and exciting things happening?
It's regulatory changes. So and we know politics is never stable in any country, but when you've got like 27 countries in the EU and they've all got their own way of working, their own direction of movement, it's changing all the time. And then you've got municipality-led changes within cities. And that part is very hard to build business models around and do projections for the innovative companies that are trying to push the lever here and try to make it happen. So it's the instability and regulatory ambitions, demands, and then the broken down element of it, because it's not an EU-wide, it's not a country-wide, there's actually municipality-led initiatives as well. So it's definitely the biggest challenge, I think, for all businesses in the industry today. I'd say it's like a bit like whack-a-mole, like the game at the fairground where you try to hit something. If I think about like Easee in the past 4 years as well, we think we've built a product fit and then something pops up, whether it be an incentive or whether it be a regulation, and then you have to go and whack another mole. And it's like, how can you build a business model when you're constantly fighting the different changes? So
now you need to have this type of meter, or now you also need to have this type of functionality, and now you need to be able to speak to the cloud to provide this kind of service. It's an ever-changing landscape, isn't it?
Yeah, and if I look at e-mobility, like the actual electric vehicles, back to the electric vans, for example, just recently the UK pushed back 5 years, delayed the adoption of electric vans for 5 years to 2035. the space that we were in, like goods, vehicles, electric, these companies were seeing a pressure coming up to do something by 2030, which means our product was at the very forefront of their mind. Now, it doesn't need to be at the forefront of their mind. It gets an extra 3 years to the next round of vehicles can go out. And that's very hard to build businesses and people building the vehicles as well. I've seen some of the van prices now, for example, are so low because they'd expected this continued growth, and just one regulation can change that overnight.
But well, and what's some of the most exciting stuff happening in Europe?
I'm so excited. So excited about my travels of late because I'm getting to go to the new markets of EV adoption, people at the start of the curve. But like when we were chatting about Australia over the past 2 years and watching it explode, it's really exciting, and you see all these different players come to market. And because I've been doing it for 10 years now, and I started in Norway, if you like, and followed the shadow of trends down, you've seen a lot of things happening, and you start to spot trigger points of when something's going to pop off, or where an opportunity opens up, or where crucially the opportunities are missed in the past 10 years. So now I spent time in Poland 2 weeks ago. Absolutely blown away by the centre of Warsaw. It's like the centre of New York. Who would have known?
It wasn't like that 20 years ago.
No, they've continued economic growth for 28 years running, the only country in Europe to have that. And when you go to Warsaw, you think you've been dropped in the centre of New York. It's quite incredible, the skyline and the energy in the city and the lights. I was blown away by that 2 weeks ago. The Austrian market, we're going to move south to Italy and Spain and Portugal. There's more electric cars being sold in Portugal now than there is in Norway, would you believe? Like, who would ever imagine that? You know, the percentage might only be 20% adoption. In Norway is 93% adoption, but just with the sheer scale of the country. So countries like this, I spent some time in Portugal last year, I'm going over again later this year, just watching this growth across Europe. And that's really excitement for me, because these are the markets that are popping off as opposed to stabilizing and becoming more structured. And I think I've proven from the last 10, 15 minutes, I don't know how long we've been talking, I've run towards the chaos, I've run towards that element of how can we fix it, how can we grow it, and I'm really enjoying that part of it.
Awesome.
So that's what I'm excited about.
And hopefully there's many exciting growth markets for you in the future too, and lots more chaos to wade through, both in terms of setting up operations in different places, but I guess also in terms of navigating different regulations and hurdles on the way too. Good. Really appreciate you taking the time to come on Charting Sessions. Super nice to have you on. Always good to have a chat. I think Google will struggle to get the transcript right with Swedish accent and a heavy Scottish one. So we'll see how. Hopefully, people can lip read on YouTube when we post this later on.
It may be your first podcast with subtitles. Who knows?
Yeah, that's right. I'm gonna have to put them in manually, though. I think. I don't think AI is quite there just yet. All right. Thanks heaps, Alan, and have a great day. And I look forward to chatting to you personally, hopefully soon again.
Thanks, Johan.